I'm sitting in the premises of Bootle Cricket Club, and being here in Bootle is the essence of the whole story. I grew up in Bootle, went to school here, played in the parks around here. My friends were all from here. But university and work took me away from Bootle many, many years ago. I happened to come back just over 4 years to a dinner at the old grammar school, which of course no longer exists. And it was to celebrate what would have been the 100th anniversary of the existence of the school, if it still existed. And on the way back, being given a lift by one of my now good friends from the old Bootleans, I happened to remark how sad I was that Bootle is much more depressed than it was when I was a kid. It's never been a rich town, but it used to have its doctors on the road that I lived in and reasonable facilities around. And when I said this, one of the other guys in the back of the car said, and I keep quoting this because it came the trigger for the whole of this project, he said, and I quote, "Bootle's like the poor, always with you." And I got angry, said so, but thought about it overnight. Now, my wife was up here with me. She comes from Cambridgeshire, so she doesn't know the area, and she was up for the weekend with me so I could show her around. And I said to her in the morning that I was thinking of putting together a project, but that the whole essence of this project were the old Bootleans with whom I'd sat at dinner the night before and who have, between them all, such a breadth of experience in the public and private sector. And they too, my sense was, also appreciated what this town and the school gave them as a start to their lives. And so I thought I could put together a project which harnessed the keenness and the expertise of the old Bootleans to a series of activities, all of which designed to help Bootle. Sometime later we decided to call it something. I remember being quizzed, in fact in this very room, by one of the old Bootleans saying, "We need to give this a name." And I was kind of saying, well, let's get on and deliver some stuff. But I sort of recognized the logic of a name. And someone said, why don't we call it Prospice? And I said, you know, that's Latin. Here we are trying to help a town that is not well-to-do. Why would we give it a Latin name? When I drove away from this very building, on every lamppost there were the three words, Respice, Aspice, Prospice, the town motto. Look to the past, look to the present, look to the future. So we decided on Prospice and 21 for the 21st century. So we're helping Bootle look to a better future in the 21st century. So the essence of how we could help contribute to Bootle's regeneration are, on the one hand, business projects, and on the other hand, community support activities. And I want to talk a little bit about both of those two types. Now, one of the business projects is to support the owners of the port who spent a significant amount of money redeveloping the facilities so they could take the new, bigger ships that can come through the wider Panama Canal. And one of the important things for the future of Merseyside is that the widening of the Panama Canal now means that all the Asian traffic has become Atlantic traffic. So instead of going round South America, it can come straight through the widened Panama Canal into the southern part of the Atlantic. And Liverpool, of course, is the Atlantic port. By the way, since the middle of the 20th century, all the big working docks have been in Bootle rather than Liverpool, but we'll gloss over that. The world at large knows the port as Liverpool or Merseyside. So we're helping the owners of the port using our old Bootleans contact network to reach out to potential new customers of the port. The second business idea came to me when I was doing my first research and walking alongside the old dock wall. And that made me remember that as a child, I'd never been able to get on the other side of that wall, and nor had anybody, except those who worked in the port, ever been able to see what happens on the other side of that wonderful dock wall. So I went to the port and said, I'd like them to give me permission to create a tourist trail. We decided to call it the Docklands Trail, which will allow the public in a controlled way to visit selected sites right along that waterfront. Our overall design will consist of 6 sites. It will take us many years to develop them, but that's fine. But when it's all complete, there will be 6 separate sites stretching from Liverpool right through Bootle itself and into the new container port at Seaforth called Liverpool 2. And the idea of those sites is to tell the specific site of the piece of concrete you're standing on right by the water's edge. And our first site, by way of example, will be Gladstone Dock. And where our exhibits will be, by the way, they'll be in, would you believe, shipping containers, because it's a port theme, but shipping containers not as you would recognize them on the back of a truck, but decorated and with windows and showing exhibits designed to tell a specific story. But the first of those sites will be right at Gladstone Dock. And imagine that you're in one of those sites and you're seeing the exhibits and the ship going through the lock is there, 10, 15 feet away. A huge container ship loaded up, passing by you 10 to 15 feet away. Now that is going to be a wonderful attraction for people, not just from the region, but national visitors across from the UK, and of course tourist visitors from abroad. So we will end up with 6 sites developed over a number of years, each telling the individual specific stories of that piece of concrete you're standing on, saying in here, on that concrete, these events, like the arrival of the GIs at Gladstone Dock, took place. So that's our Docklands Trail. The community groups we're supporting, there are in fact 6 of them. A home for drug and alcohol abusing men, a primary school, happened to be the one that several of us went to, but they chose us. We didn't go and select them because we'd been there. A neighbourhood centre, a YMCA, a children's centre, which typically deals in support of teenage pregnant mums. Now, in these community groups, of course, we aren't equipped to do what I'd like to call the front office, the hands-on stuff. But what we can do, and what we have done, is brought processes to their back office and skills and routines that frees up the frontline staff to do more of what they're doing with drug and alcohol abusing men, by way of example, or with teenage pregnant mums, because they're spending less time on keeping the processes of the organisation running. And we've, I think, contributed a lot to much better outcomes for the community groups themselves. So that's what we've been doing. We've been at this for over 4 years. We're moving now to form a proper charity coverage for our Docklands Trail as it becomes a bigger operation and will eventually end up with its own independent management. So we're changing and evolving our structure. We're looking to reach out to way beyond the Old Bootleans community, to as many people who are keen to give back to the town in which they grow up, as is the prime motivation for us Old Bootleans. So that's what Prospice 21's about. That's how it started. We've got a lot more to do, and we're determined to give back to the town that gave so much to us in our childhood.